we did just get some U.S. economic data that came out. The manufacturing PMI and services PMI came out. So let's just take a quick look at this. So you had on the manufacturing front, some more disappointment here, 48.3 compared to 49.4. So some continued contraction in manufacturing data. They did revise, slightly higher the previous ones. That's kind of positive. Well, that is positive, but then this is kind of negative. So we'll call the first one mixed. But then if you take a look at services PMI came in 58.5 compared to 55.7. That is better than expected for the services department, but then revised lower the number previously. So a little bit upbeat, slightly miss here for the services PMI. And let's just compare that really quickly to what we saw out of Europe. If we take a look at French numbers, again, kind of a miss here, a beat here. And then if we see German numbers, we had a miss here and a beat here. So I don't know, we'll see. And then finally, GBP, manufacturing PMI missed on both fronts, but services PMI beat on both fronts. Curious to see, I mean, we can see clearly the dollar's reaction to this 30-minute chart, 1 hour chart here, up on the hour. Market seems to be still favoring U.S. economic data over others at this time.
And that frustrates me. I wanted lower on, if you're going to take up about a small little trade I wanted to do, dollar Swissy. I wanted to come lower before taking off. I think that with the dollar strength, dollar Swissy has potentially the most possible, the most potential to go higher, given what S&P did last week and the current form of the economies. This was like, this is what I'm going to catch on Monday.
Yeah.
And then kaboom.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me too that we have the dollar rallying, but at the same time, you've got gold higher and stocks higher. That's an interesting one to me. I mean, the dollar strength, I wonder at what point it does start to make people a little bit nervous. Here's the 10-year yield. It is creeping higher. I guess it really just comes down to the Fed meeting. I mean, if you get a really hawkish Fed meeting here this week, and we start really taking out highs, that would be a little pressure on gold and stocks, wouldn't it?
Yeah, okay, it would definitely impact gold more than the stock market. Well, if we go through 2022 and the stock market and you're like, okay, what happened? It only had 2022. It only had like, wasn't that much of a dip, was it? That was in 2022. That is 2022 from there. So, somewhere around there is about 25%, where we have a hiked interest rate from 0 or so up to 4, 5, 5.5.
5, yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, that's with rate hikes like crazy. So, and again, when we go back to stocks for just a second, it just feels like it doesn't even really impact the market that much, because again, where we currently are, if it was really restrictive at where the Fed is currently holding their rates, if it was really restrictive, the stock market wouldn't be, flying through the highs every single day, right? So it makes me wonder, is Powell just going to, kind of is he going to feel the pressure to not let this thing kind of melt back up again and repeat the same issues that we faced in 2022? So I don't know. I feel like the outlook next year for the Fed could be a little bit more hawkish than the market thinks it will be. And that could, put some pressure on things like gold and stocks. But as you mentioned, maybe gold more than stocks. What are your thoughts on gold? You have any bias on gold right now, or is it just too neutral for you?
Shopping for presents this holiday season can be stressful. What to get for mom, what to get for dad, grandma, your uncle. It's all just too much. Lucky for you, A1 Trading has the perfect product for everyone on your list. Introducing the A1 Stock Box. Let mom keep up with all her favorite brands like Lululemon. Dad can keep up with his reading by checking out the latest headlines. And everyone knows grandma loves hedge funds. She can keep up with what her favorite hedge funds are buying and selling each quarter, and even see what percentage of their portfolios are diverted into what stocks. There's something for everyone in the A1 stock box, available now at a1trading.com.
Okay, you're running away from me here, but I just wanted to answer your question. Why, or what happens to why is stock market still going higher? Well, we had NVDA dropping 50% in 2022, but ever since has done well at least 90% gain from that low of 2020, end of 2022. And why? Well, why did NVIDIA rise again? You said.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Wasn't that because they made record high profits?
Yep.
And they found a new gold mine, and NVIDIA turned out to be the biggest stock out there.
Yeah, in fact,
it even currently.
I think it's the only stock also that has outperformed Bitcoin over the last like 10 years, which is insane. No other stock has been able to even come close to Bitcoin's return or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is the stock market can just kind of keep going higher off of some of these super stories, as you mentioned with NVIDIA. The other one that just went flying high is Broadcom. I mean, Broadcom this is a $1 trillion company now. It's another ginormous player in the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, and again is dragging things higher here today. NASDAQ's outperformance in the last few weeks has been incredible, right? 0.94% up today. S&P's up only 0.39, and yet again, where the Dow Jones is flat to red. I mean, it's a really interesting divergence, and I've been pointing this out too. I like to look at the RSP, the equal weighted ETF. This has actually been, just like the Dow Jones, has actually been moving lower. This is the S&P 500 without putting extra weighting on the biggest companies, and you can see it's actually moving lower here recently. So just kind of an interesting story. I wonder if that is if that's going to be an issue, or if the other companies will start to catch up to the major players, Broadcom, NVIDIA, etc.
So, conclusion of my answer was the companies are still making money, given the higher interest rates, given the higher inflation, given what we're supposed to give them higher financing costs. It's still find a way, at least for NVIDIA, to make more money, and that's why the stock market is still higher, even with this what is it, 4.75% higher interest rate. But yeah, that's the only reason. If he didn't make money, we wouldn't have stock market so high.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly right. Is at the end of the day, the Fed. I feel like a story that has been really prevalent in the stock market world has been, as long as the Fed is not talking about hiking rates, as long as the next direction seems to be a rate cut, the market can just kind of ignore the Fed and go back to focusing on strengthening earnings for companies. So it's an interesting market out there. What about oil, Eivind? Does oil any bias here for you? Chart's been really choppy. But going into 2025, I know you and I have both talked about leaning a little bit more on the bearish side. But what do you think about this?
I can't remember what I said as a target, but yeah. Who was it OPEC the other day that lowered their demand forecast for 2025? I've also seen rumors that we're going to also still continue to cut production into 2025, and we have found seemingly an equilibrium about $70. Also, I would argue, well, we have Syria as well now into the mix, but I would argue, given the CPI story, if that's the story that I'm going to go with, if that is still about 2%, we are okay, but we're not going to have anything crazy, aka 2022, which was the highest inflation we've had in a very long time in the G7 countries, then I believe 70% is. But if we go if we inflation-wise go below 2, generally across the board, China, that supports my bearish case.
Yeah, no, it's that's a good point about CPI. You know, inflation, of course, impacts commodity prices quite a bit. When you have like commodities told us that inflation was falling a lot sooner than the CPI did, right? Inflation really ticked higher. If we take a look at like here's earlier in the year, copper went crazy. In 2022, copper went parabolic, right? But then copper prices started to slow. They've been really kind of cooling off, and it's an interesting indicator almost to watch commodities in their relationship to CPI. So we'll have to see where that goes.
Did you know we do a live trading show Monday through Friday with guests from all over the world? To get notified when we go live, click the bell button next to the subscribe button or check in at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We have helpful, free content in the description below and on our website, a1trading.com. Thanks for watching today's video, and we'll see you tomorrow.